Right now, I want to welcome to the program for a nanny state update. Our friend Julie Gunlock of the Independent Women's Forum is with us. How are you, Julie?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. I appreciate you coming on the program. First of all, I know that the kids aren't quite back in school yet, so you aren't quite. I can
in a good mood.
I can just hear the disappointment.
No, they are not. So I have one more week left, and it's a tough one. Not a lot of regular sitting, but we're going to get through it. They start next week.
All right, so right along with school has not yet started. Did you see the story last week, the big study that says no amount of alcohol is safe, and really we should think about prohibition too?
Yeah, this is, I did see that. There was a lot of stuff. Actually, I was on vacation last week, and there were a lot of these stories.
This is what happens when you go on vacation, Julie.
I know. There were a lot of these stories between the mom who let her daughter walk the dog around the block, and she was investigated, and then, of course, the no alcohol ban, and, of course, there was also the glyphosate or, the pesticide in cereal. There was all sorts of baloney out there. And, yeah, this latest study on alcohol is yet more of these sort of really bad scientific studies where they come up with correlations that look really terrifying and look really good, and they generate a lot of headlines. And look, most scientists, really respected scientists look at these kinds of things and sort of cross their eyes and, or roll their eyes. But, to consumers and to the average person just reading the newspaper, these things are scary. The truth is that moderate alcohol consumption is considered completely healthy. And, there is something about also enjoying life. And for many people, the occasional drink, the, 5 o'clock happy hour with friends, these things bring great joy. So joy and happiness and spending time with friends is also key to a long life and a happy life. And so, creating this sort of hysterics out there using very bad correlative science is not helping anyone. And again, I think that kind of stress. But look, you have certain groups out there, and there are groups that are prohibition, anti-alcohol, who want this kind of stuff, and they glob on to these studies because it furthers their agenda, and ultimately could lead, if you have some enterprising young politician, could lead to more regulations.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I honestly don't think we're going to see Prohibition 2 start anytime soon, but honestly, Julie, I can't predict the next, a ban to come down the road. So we saw, last week or the week before last, it was plastic straws, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's still going on. But then I saw yesterday one of the things they're doing in San Francisco is they're banning filtered cigarettes. So they've already banned the e-juice, right? And vaporizers in San Francisco. Now apparently filters are going away because that too causes problems for the ocean. So the health conscious Bay Area is now in favor of smoking unfiltered cigarettes.
Yeah, but what the Bay Area and what California is also banning is vaping, which these are shown. Vaping machines. I have to sneeze. I'm so sorry. Trying not to sneeze, but about to sneeze. Okay, now it's gone. Vaping has been shown over and over again by multiple studies to be 95% less harmful than traditional combustible cigarettes, and yet California San Francisco and other cities in California have put in place multiple bans so that people can't get the flavors they want, or they can't even get the vaping electronic that they want. And so it's really hard for people to stop traditional combustible cigarettes, which everyone agrees are cancer-causing and truly dangerous. But instead so California is just, it's amazing also when you consider San Francisco used to be the home of harm reduction, right? They pass out needles, they believe in condom distribution, methadone, and yet when it comes to smoking, they put barriers up to people finding alternatives, harm reduction policies or products rather that can help them quit a really harmful habit, and that is smoking. So, yeah, California yet again makes no sense.
Yeah. All right. Now, listen. I'm going to. You mentioned the toxic cereal, as well as the mom being investigated for letting her kid walk the dog. We'll get to the dog walking story, but I confess I missed the toxic cereal story. So can you scare me and then reassure me?
Yeah, well, there's an organization called EWG, the Environmental Working Group, and this is the same group. They're absolutely. Let me just bottom line this for you. It's a horrible organization. It's truly. I can't say enough bad things about the EWG. Every year they trot out the Dirty Dozen list, telling moms that certain fruits and vegetables have higher levels of, they say, toxic levels of pesticide residue. This is not true. The EPA measures produce that goes into the grocery store to ensure that it has low levels of pesticide residue. And look, we're talking nearly undetectable levels of pesticide residue. Now, let me give you just a perspective here. So you can buy conventional strawberries, and these are strawberries that are grown in a field, and they are sprayed with some sort of pesticide to keep the weeds or the bugs away. And for my child to get actually they would still be at the safe level, but they would hit that barrier. So, again, the EPA sets a level of how many strawberries you have to eat, essentially, in order to get get to the highest level of safe pesticide residue. For my child to do that, they'd have to eat 1,500 strawberries in one sitting to reach the still acceptable but highest level of acceptable pesticide residue levels. And so, the point I'm trying to make here is that there's no way you're going to hit that. There's just no way. Your stomach would explode if you ate 1,500 strawberries. And so what angers me about this is that they say, oh, they're elevated levels of pesticide residue. But when you realize that elevated is not still very low and still within the safe levels, then it isn't harmful. But again, they twist it to make it seem like kids are in danger. And of course, what this promotes is the idea of, well, then you should feed your children organic fruits and vegetables, which the EWG is basically the PR arm of the organic industry. And so it gets people so worried that they spend their money, and in many cases scarce resources, scarce amount of money, on organic produce. And what we need to be encouraging people to do is just eat more fruits and vegetables, no matter what. If they're conventional, if they're organic, just eat the fruits and vegetables. But EWG makes it very hard. They lie to consumers, specifically moms who worry about this stuff. And they've done this now with cereals. They have found, now glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. It is a very safe, non-carcinogenic pesticide that is used, very successful. Farmers love it. And, if you're going to spray a crop with glyphosate, and then you take the crops out and you process them for food, yeah, sure, you might find tiny, infinitesimal amounts of this pesticide in the food, but it doesn't mean it's dangerous. It means it's just like trace amounts of it. And so the EWG took some cereals, sent them off to a lab. This is totally non-scientific, by the way. There could have been cross-contamination. It's not a real scientific study. They just sent these things out to a lab to get tested, and sure enough, they found glyphosate, trace amounts of glyphosate in the cereal, because, of course, cereals are made from wheat and oats and other grains, corn, and so they've raised the alarm, saying kids are getting toxic levels of glyphosate. It's absolutely absurd. It's a complete lie. And what's so sad is it could lead people, look, oatmeal is a very affordable, it's very healthy, it's very filling, very nutritious food. And think of all the moms who are going to say, you know what, I think we'll skip the oatmeal and maybe pick something less healthy. That's what's so sad about this EWG report, and why it's an organization that can't be trusted, and consumers definitely should not go to them for information about food, about health, and about wellness.
All right, talking again with our friend Julie Gunlock from the Independent Women's Forum. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to try to squeeze in 2 topics, including this story from suburban Chicago, where a mom, had the police called. There was an investigation. Now, thankfully, the good news is, Julie, the police came out and they investigated. They said there's no issue here, right? So the issue is not with the police. The issue is not with the Department of Children and Family Services. The issue in this case is somebody seeing an 8-year-old walking the dog and calling the cops.
Yep.
That's the issue.
look, and that, when NBC Nightly News did a story on this, and I was interviewed in my house for, a good long time, like an hour, and the clip they took, which was brilliant, the clip they took was me saying, it is not my fear of, this mythical white van pulling up and snatching my kids or kidnappers or robbers or rapists or, child murderers. It's my fear of my neighbors who might report me or call the police on me. That is truly my fear. When I let my kids, and I've talked about this multiple times, how I really try to be a free-range parent. I try. I'm not perfect, but I try. And that is my greatest fear, is that someone will report me or call the police on me. I do live in a neighborhood that's, I think, has a lot of helicopter parents. I mean, I wrote about it for the Federalist, how a police officer came up to me in the parking lot of my local grocery store just down the road, and he flashed his badge in my face and said, "You can't do this." Well, I could do this. It's my legal right to leave my kids in the car with the windows rolled down on a 60-degree day after they all begged me not to drag them in the grocery store. It was my right to do that, and this law enforcement official didn't even know that. And so, he could have made my life really difficult. Luckily, I yelled at him, and I think I scared him, but to get away from me and stop scaring my children. But again, this is the fear for a lot of moms. I've heard this from other moms. Bethany Mandel has had the same experience. Lenore Skenazy constantly tracks these cases and defends these women where this happens to them. So, this is not uncommon today. And this poor woman who let her daughter do a healthy thing, walk a dog, is now probably, like me, going to be afraid to give her daughter a little bit of freedom.
I hope not, but again, you got to be willing to stand up and speak out if you do so. All right, 2 minutes left. I'm going to throw you a curveball, Julie. You probably haven't even heard this story, but far, far away from Northern Virginia, about as far away as you can get from Northern Virginia and still be in Virginia, Lee County, the school board there recently unanimously approved a policy that would have designated certain school staffers as conservators of the peace, and they would have been carrying firearms in each school building for the protection of the kids. Today, the Attorney General of Virginia, Mark Herring, came out and with an advisory opinion and said, no, you can't do that. It's against the law. These teachers don't meet the definition of a conservator of the peace, and no, these kids, in essence, must remain unprotected because the school district can't afford to put a school resource officer in every building. The sheriff's department can't afford to put a deputy in every building. And so that means that first layer of defense is simply going to be non-existent there in Lee County and, frankly, any other rural school in Virginia that cannot afford this.
Let's do an assessment of just how much they waste on, programs that don't work, social programs that don't work. I mean, they have the money. And they have the resources, and they're making a political decision here. They're making a decision against arming teachers and against securing schools, and that's really unfortunate. And voters have a right, to make a decision based on these local officials' decisions. This is, this is a real problem. I think as parents, my kids aren't in school yet, but I know a lot of parents did send their kids to school this week, and this is on the minds of people. So I think that this is going to really come home to roost come election time.
All right, Julie Gunlock, thank you, as always, for coming on the program. Patience and perseverance. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Julie Gunlock with us here on Cam & Company.